In the summer of 326, the most powerful man on earth had his wife locked inside a bath and turned the heat up until she died. A few weeks earlier, he had executed his own son. And 11 years after that, dying, he took Christian baptism from a bishop he had personally condemned as a heretic. This is Constantine, the emperor who made Christianity legal. And the story you know about him is the polished half. Because the deeds that built the modern world and the murders that ended his family are the same story. 31 years on the throne, he rebuilt a collapsing empire and founded a city that lasted 1,100 years. He also killed his father-in-law, his brother-in-law, his nephew, his son, and his wife. Everything written about him came from people who needed a saint or a monster. Where they contradict, you'll see both. So, believer, or a politician who found a useful god. Around the year 272, in what is now Serbia, a soldier's son was born. His mother was Helena. St. Ambrose called her a stabularia, an innkeeper, a stable girl. Nobody can prove she was ever legally married to his father, which means the man who would rule the Roman world may have been illegitimate. Then his father set her aside to marry into the imperial family. The boy was now outside the family that ran the world. Here's why that mattered. Rome had just spent 50 years tearing itself apart. Civil war, plague, a currency collapsing. So Diocletian built a machine to stop it. 4 rulers at once. And the throne handed down by appointment instead of by murder. Constantine grew up inside that machine at the Eastern courts, as a guest and as a hostage. Then, in 305, the senior emperors retired. The machine chose its next generation and skipped him completely. He was not supposed to be emperor, but a machine can appoint an emperor. So can an army. So he ran. According to Lactantius, a Christian writer inside Constantine's own household, so take it as you find it, he crippled the post horses at every relay station behind him. He reached his father in Britain, and on the 25th of July, 306, in a fort at York, Constantius died. The soldiers there did not wait for the machine. They put the purple on his son and called him Augustus on the spot. The senior emperor in the East refused and offered him the junior rank instead, Caesar. An army had made him the second man in the Roman world. A letter demoted him to fourth. He said thank you. Then he spent 18 years correcting it, one dead rival at a time. First, he had to look like an emperor, so he went to the Rhine. He crushed a Frankish invasion and took 2 of their kings alive. He brought them to Trier and threw them to the beasts in the amphitheater. The cruelty isn't the shocking part. The bragging is. A court poem praises it as severitas. Severity, proof the young emperor had the hardness the job needed. It was performed at his wedding. The bride was Fausta. Remember her. Her father was Maximian, one of the 4 founding emperors, who had retired once and couldn't stand it. In 310, while Constantine was up on the Rhine, he declared himself emperor again. Constantine chased him the length of Gaul and cornered him at Marseille, where he hanged himself. Then he did the colder thing. He had the old man's name chiseled off every inscription in the empire, his statues broken, his face deleted. Erasing people was already a habit, but you cannot take a country by terror alone. By 312, Italy belonged to Maxentius, Maximian's son, Constantine's own brother-in-law. So he did what Roman generals were told never to do. In high summer, with the smaller army, he crossed the Alps and invaded Italy. He stormed Susa, then ordered his own men to put the fire out and forbade them to loot. Advertising aimed at every Italian city still watching. Turin and Verona fell behind him. It worked. Cities opened their gates. And on the 28th of October, 312, 6 years to the day since Maxentius seized power, they met at the Milvian Bridge, north of Rome. Now, you know this story. Constantine looks up, sees a flaming cross in the sky, reads the words, "By this sign, conquer." Here's what the sources actually say. Lactantius, writing within a few years, says it came in a dream the night before, and it was not a cross. He describes a letter X with a line drawn through it, a monogram painted on shields. Eusebius of Caesarea, writing decades later, after Constantine was safely dead, describes a cross of light in the sky, above the sun, in daylight, seen by the whole army. And Eusebius's own earlier history of the church doesn't mention a vision at all. Two witnesses, two incompatible stories, both working for the same man. That is the pattern for the rest of this story. The closer a writer stood to Constantine, the more certain he is about what Constantine saw. What nobody disputes is the river. Maxentius had the walls of Rome, the bigger army, and no reason at all to come out. He came out anyway, and he fought with the Tiber at his back, across a temporary bridge of boats. Two halves, fastened with iron, built to be pulled apart the moment he needed the river between himself and Constantine. In the rout, it came apart on its own. He drowned in his own escape route, in armor, in the river he had put at his back. They pulled him out the next morning and paraded his head through Rome. Rome had a new master, and Rome thanked him with an arch. It's still standing beside the Colosseum. The Senate's inscription says, "He freed the state from a tyrant by the prompting of the divinity." Rome carved his victory into stone and refused to name the God who gave it to him. There is no Christian symbol anywhere on it. That is not an oversight. It is the whole method. Because the Edict of Milan did not make Christianity the state religion. It granted freedom of worship to everybody, pagans included. Christianity became the state religion in 380, under Theodosius, 43 years after Constantine was dead. Careful about gods, ruthless about machinery, he struck a new gold coin, the solidus. 72 to the Roman pound, near pure gold. It stayed the standard of the Mediterranean for 700 years, and its name is still in your mouth. The Italian soldo, the French sou, the English word soldier, and the Praetorian Guard, which had made and murdered emperors for 3 centuries and had backed Maxentius, he abolished outright. Then, in 321, the first Sunday rest law in history, which sounds like the moment he picks a side. Until you read the Latin, on the venerable day of the sun, not the Lord's day, the sun. And the sun god had been on his coins for years after the bridge. When Saul finally left them, around 318, look at what replaced him. Not Christ, nothing. Neutral designs. He kept the pagan high priesthood too, Pontifex Maximus, chief priest of the old gods, for most of his reign. And paganism stayed legal his entire reign. Skip forward a moment. The last thing he built says it loudest. He nearly built it at Troy. The gates were up before he abandoned the site. He chose Byzantium instead. And on the 11th of May, 330, Constantinople was dedicated. It was not a Christian city. It was a pagan city with churches in it. He looted statues out of temples across the empire to decorate it, and built a shrine to the goddess of fortune. And on a column in his forum, he put a colossal statue of himself, as Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. It stood over that city until a storm brought it down in 1106. A coin, a law, and a city. 3 things that outlived him, and not one of them picks a god. So, believer or politician. That left one rival, his own brother-in-law, Licinius. Constantine beat him in 316, made peace, and made 2 of his own sons Caesars. One of them was Crispus. Remember that name too. 8 years later, they went to war again. Constantine broke Licinius at Adrianople. Then Crispus, commanding the fleet in the narrows of the Hellespont, destroyed a far larger navy. Constantine took the last battle at Chrysopolis. Licinius surrendered on a sworn guarantee that his life would be spared. Constantine executed him anyway, and the next year killed Licinius's young son, his own nephew. One man now ruled everything from Britain to Syria. For the first time since the machine was built, the machine was one person. And a man who owns everything has one thing left to organize: what everyone believes. So in 325, he summoned the bishops of the Christian world to a lakeside town called Nicaea and paid for the whole thing. 2 things you've been told about that council are false. It did not choose the books of the Bible. Nicaea never discussed the canon. And it wasn't a knife-edge vote on whether Jesus was divine. Both sides already agreed he was. The fight was over whether the Son was the same substance as the Father or something the Father had made. Of roughly 250 bishops, exactly 2 refused to sign. He had united the empire and settled the church. He had 11 months left before he destroyed his own family. In the spring of 326, Constantine went to Rome to celebrate 20 years on the throne. Weeks later, at Pula on the Croatian coast, he had Crispus arrested and put to death, his eldest son, the man who had won him the sea. Months after that, Fausta, his wife of 19 years, mother of the 3 boys who would inherit the world, was shut inside an overheated bath. And she died there. 19 years, 3 sons, a door bolted from the outside, 2 people at the center of the imperial family, gone inside a single summer, and nobody knows why. Zosimus, a hostile pagan, says Crispus was suspected of an affair with his stepmother. Later, Byzantine writers say the exact opposite, that Fausta accused him falsely and was killed when the truth came out. Eutropius gives no motive at all, only that the pride of prosperity turned Constantine cruel. Here's the tell. If Crispus had ever been cleared, the erasure order against him would have been lifted. It never was. Whatever he decided his son had done, he never decided he was wrong. And Eusebius of Caesarea, the bishop who wrote the fullest account of this reign, a man who knew him, does not mention either death. At all. Not the son, not the wife, not a line. The fullest life we have of the most documented emperor of that century has a hole in it, exactly the shape of 2 people. The state erased them from the stone. The church erased them from the page. That is what it took to make Constantine the Great, and the creed he had forced through was already coming apart, and he was the one pulling at it. Within 2 years he recalled Arius, the man Nicaea had condemned as a heretic, from exile. When Athanasius, the fiercest defender of the creed, refused, Constantine deposed him and exiled him to Trier, the city where he had fed 2 kings to the beasts. And the men now closest to him were the Arians, Arius's side, the heretics Nicaea had condemned. In the spring of 337, he was mustering for one more war against Persia. With a portable church shaped like a tent, he fell ill before it launched, and he finally asked to be baptized. He had put it off his whole life. The belief was that baptism wiped out every sin before it. So, the later, the better. He was baptized at a villa near Nicomedia and died on the 22nd of May. Now, you may have heard he was baptized in Rome by Pope Sylvester right after the Milvian Bridge. He was not. That legend is 25 years out of place. His own biographer doesn't name the bishop. The name comes from Jerome, writing around 380, and he states it flatly. Constantine was baptized at the end of his life by a different Eusebius entirely, Eusebius of Nicomedia. In the Arian dogma, the emperor who called the council that defined orthodoxy died on the only testimony we have, a heretic's convert. The Church spent 1,000 years fixing that, and forged a document handing itself the Western Empire in his name. Lorenzo Valla proved it a forgery in 1440. They buried him as the 13th apostle, 12 empty tombs around his own sarcophagus. Within weeks, soldiers went through his family. 2 half-brothers, 2 nephews, his senior officials, most of the adult men of his line, dead inside 2 months. 2 boys survived. One was too ill to be worth killing. The other was about 6. And the dynasty he killed his own son to secure lasted 24 years. One son died invading his brother's territory. One was overthrown and killed. The last died in 361 and handed the throne to the boy who survived the massacre. His name was Julian. He renounced Christianity and he reopened the temples. So, believer or politician? On the evidence, A man who used a god the way he used everything else. He never made Rome Christian. He made Rome tolerant, and then spent 30 years making himself unremovable. Eutropius, a civil servant of Constantine's own dynasty, gave the honest verdict. At the beginning of his reign, comparable to the best of emperors. At the end, only to the middling ones. The city lasted 1100 years. The coin held for 700. The creed is still said out loud today. His family did not survive the summer. If you want the real story behind the ones everybody thinks they already know, subscribe to Fact Bites. One verified story every week.
Huh?